The Backfire Hammer Sledge. This is a electric skateboard that comes in 2-wheel drive or 4-wheel drive. It's the updated version of the Backfire Hammer. It looks like a souped up electric skateboard, like a souped up Backfire Hammer with the wing at the back and the 2 wings at the sides and the 4-wheel drive add-on kit. Aleks has a lot to say about it, so I'm gonna let Aleks do his review first, and then after his review, I'll give you more of my thoughts.
I'm holding a hammer. Is it a Backfire hammer? It is not a Backfire hammer, but we are going to talk about the Backfire Hammer Sledge. For the Backfire Hammer Sledge, they decided to use a lithium polymer pack instead of the usual cylindrical lithium ion pack. The main difference between the lithium polymer and lithium ion packs is that lithium polymer allows for way more discharge than what usually lithium ion packs can push out. But the downside is there's a little bit less power density with lithium polymer packs than lithium ion. But if you factor in how these cells are arranged, you may see it otherwise. Because for lithium ion, the cells are cylindrical. If you put it in a square box, there's gonna be empty space between the cells. But for lipo cells, because they're in a rectangular shape, you can stack more of them closer to each other. So in a way, it kinda equals out in my opinion. Another thing about lithium polymer is that it's usually a little bit less stable than lithium ion, and the cycle life of lithium polymer is also lower than lithium ion. So that's something to take into account while purchasing a board. But at the same time, lithium polymer does allow for more discharge. The Backfire Hammer Sledge is rated for 150 amps of discharge. But does it actually reach 150 amps? I have no way to confirm or deny this, so I'm just taking their word for it. It is a 12S pack rated at 820 watt hours. Backfire advertises 50 kilometers of range in 2-wheel drive with the 6-inch pneumatic wheels, or 65 kilometer range in 2-wheel drive with the 165 millimeter cloud wheels. But I tested both the 2-wheel drive and the 4-wheel drive version. For 2-wheel drive with 6-inch pneumatics, I got a range of about 43 kilometers. A lot of thing affects range, and it has been crazy hot here in Hangzhou, so that could have affected it as well, but I think it's mostly just because I'm fat. And in 4-wheel drive, I got a range of 27 kilometers, which was a little bit unexpected. Yeah, that wasn't a fun ride. The Backfire Hammer Sledge includes a 5 amp charger that is absolutely massive. It is one of the biggest chargers that I've ever seen with an electric skateboard. Like, damn, this thing is big. And quite heavy. With the 5 amp charger, you can charge it from flat to full in about 4 hours. ESC, there's something we gotta talk about. Because instead of like other manufacturers and just using Hobbywing, I've tested a lot of Hobbywing boards throughout the months, and this one is not from Hobbywing. It's Backfire's own BESC. Does it sound like a VESC? VESC? But this one is BESC, so it's a BESC because it's the best. Unlike Hobbywing ESCs, with the Backfire's BESC, you can customize the top speed, acceleration, and also brake. So there is a lot of things to customize with the new Backfire BESC, which I just put everything to 100%. Yeah. And in terms of the remote, Backfire has its own new Halo remote. It features a fingerprint sensor. If you find your buddies like Chase Missing Tooth Parker keep on trying to steal your boards and go on joyrides, you might want to get the Backfire Hammer Sledge, because they can't unlock the remote without your freaking finger. But Backfire, you might want to turn the standby time a little bit longer, because right now if I just don't use the remote for like 5 seconds, it just locks automatically and have to put my finger on there to unlock it again. It's quite annoying during traffic lights, so yeah, that's something to look into. It has a circular display. It's actually way better than I thought. Although in camera it looks pretty dim, but it's plenty bright for riding it under the sun. Yeah, I can see it with no problem. Like, all the information is there, your speed mode, your battery level, the board level. And if you dive into the menus a little bit, you can even see the individual cell voltages, which is a completely new thing that I haven't seen on any other boards. And as for fingerprint, you can set up to 3 fingerprints. So I set up my thumb and also my middle finger, because if I reach around the remote, I can just put my middle finger there and, you know, can unlock it. The Halo remote is half aluminum and half plastic. It's one of the best build qualities I've seen on a remote. this thing feels solid. I wouldn't worry about it dropping on the ground or something like that. So yeah, it's a really solid remote and it feels so nice in the hand. Backfire with this remote really just blow me away. And it also features an aluminum throttle wheel, which is a lot better than most of the plastic throttle wheels that we have on the market right now. The look and feel of it is just on point. There is a feature that I love and hate at the same time. It is the reverse switch that Backfire uses. Because it is so far down on the remote, I have to fiddle with the remote a lot to put it in forward or reverse. It depends on you. If you get used to it, it's completely fine. But it's the first time I've had a Backfire board and it took me a little bit to get used to. So from the left to right, the 3 buttons. The one on the left is the Eco and Sport mode, and the one in the center, the triangular one, is the Turbo mode, and the one all the way on the right is the menu button. If you're in 4-wheel drive, you want to get into tank mode, you press the Turbo or the Eco or Sport button twice to put it in tank mode. And if the tank mode is turning in the wrong direction, you flip the forward and reverse switch on the bottom of the remote to change the direction for the tank mode. And if you want to get out of the tank mode, you just press the menu button all the way on the right. The controls of it is a little bit finicky, but I think it's better than some other manufacturer, I'm not gonna name names, that require you to press the same button like 6 or 8 freaking times. That's just stupid. Wait, I didn't say it's stupid. Okay. Backfire Hammer Sledge uses a belt drive system, and the belts are enclosed in a plastic shell, so like tiny rocks or like grass or like dirt or something, it won't just get into the belt and chew it up. So that's a good thing. And it also makes the board look a little bit more professionally made. Yeah, it looks pretty cool. I like it. The motors are 6370 155 kV BLDC motors, and each motor is rated for 1600 watts. The stator size, for those that want to know, are 5340, which means they're 53 in diameter and 40 in length. This board feels pretty powerful. But I think throttle curve was set up a little bit different than what I like personally. Kind of takes like a ramp, like an exponential graph kind of ramp, instead of what I'm usually used to, which is the opposite of it, or just a straight line. Yeah, so you have to push pretty deep into the remote to go faster, which is normal, but what I'm saying is you go halfway on the remote and it feels like going on a quarter with other boards. But if you go all the way balls to the walls, yeah, it feels the same. Yeah, just the throttle curve is a little bit different than usually what I usually ride, which is the Zeus Pro. But in 4-wheel drive mode, it feels really snappy. Like the acceleration is pretty good, the hill climbing is good. Yeah, just all around a pretty good, nice ride. The trucks that Backfire uses on the Sledgehammer, on the Hammer Sledge, is a double kingpin that is 10 inches wide. And it uses a 10mm axle rather than the 8mm axle that we usually have on skateboards. These trucks, they are okay. Yeah, they're just okay. I have to tighten the bushings down quite a lot for it to not wobble. Swapping the bushings didn't really help that either. I think there was just too much slop in the pivot cups. These trucks take a little bit time to get used to, but they are very carvy trucks. Yeah, I can tell you that. Carving on this thing is effortless, like actually effortless. The wheels that we got with the Hammer Sledge are their 160mm pneumatics, and they come with the mud guards, which I think is good. Backfire is stepping up their game with their accessories, man. This thing is getting a bit ridiculous in my opinion. So we got the mud guards. They're pretty good. They're pretty good. I like mud guards. Because here in Hangzhou we get rain a lot, same thing with Shanghai. So having mud guards is kind of necessary at some times. But now during the summer, we rarely get rain, but all the 3 other seasons we get a shit ton of rain. So mud guards is a really good addition. These Backfire pneumatic wheels, they feel pretty good. Yeah, they feel pretty good. Like the tread of it is new. Like I haven't seen it before on any other board, but it grips alright. And the hub looks nice. I like the hub. Yeah, the hub really looks good. The Hammer Sledge uses a 42-inch double drop deck. It is made with a maple core with fiberglass sandwich and ABS sidewalls. It also has a UV resin top coat for more durability. On the deck, it has mild concave that feels okay, and the board flexes quite a bit, so it makes riding in the city with terrible roads a little bit better. Enclosure on the Hammer S is also flexible, and it looks pretty good in my opinion. Yeah, it looks pretty nice, and it's quite thoughtfully done because there's 3 layers of the case. There's a top case, center silicone waterproofing layer, and then the bottom case. So the waterproofing layer It's a great addition. It prevents water from getting into the battery enclosure. Pretty nice. The Backfire Hammer Sledge also has add-on wing feature. It's made out of carbon fiber with the aluminum handle, and you can bolt it onto the deck. It stiffens up the deck if you don't like the flexible feel of it. Quite aggressive concave, but there's some downsides to it. First is that on the wings, it doesn't have grip tape, so you might need to put some grip tape on yourself. Putting on the wings, it requires 8 bolts on each side. There's also a bottom plate on each side of the wing to, not crack the deck and apply pressure properly. And putting that on was an experience. This is a very DIY board. Lights. Do you like lights? Because I like lights. I love lights. Backfire Hammer S comes with their own headlights. They're 300 lumens and you can put it under the front truck if you have 2-wheel drive. And with 4-wheel drive, you gotta be a little bit more creative in where you put the lights. I put them on the motor guard or the motor mounts. I unscrew one of the screws, put on the light and screw that back in. Works pretty well for me. Depends on you if you want to put it on or not. In terms on the rear, there's a built-in light on the battery enclosure. You can turn that on by pressing the remote twice and it turns it into flash modes. And it corresponds to your drive modes as well. In turbo mode, it flashes red. In eco or sport mode, it flashes white. So it looks pretty good. And Backfire is kind of known for their lights. Alright, now we're gonna be talking about the 4-wheel drive kit. So what the 4-wheel drive kit includes is a front truck with the motor mounts, motors, and wheels already attached on there, and also an ESC, external ESC. In terms of putting on the front ESC, it's kind of a pain in the ass because you first gotta plug in the motor wires into the ESC, and then you gotta route the little XT60 cable down into the little box and plug that in before you can actually screw the ESC onto the board. And originally the grip tape is gonna be covering up the holes, so you gotta kind of poke it to make the hole for it, and then you can screw in the ESC. And then once you screw in the ESC, you can put the front truck in place, and after that you gotta put the front ESC and the rear ESC into pairing mode by long pressing the power button. And once you do that, you press and hold the on button on the remote and then select 4-wheel drive mode.
6.5 hours later.
You set up the wheel diameter and gear ratio and all that, and you get it in 4-wheel drive mode. Yes, cool. Alright, now we're gonna be talking about the accessories. Here's the accessory mega thread. So first we have the tow kit. It's a little tow hook, or actually a tow ring, that screws onto the rear motor guard. You can tow I don't know, like a camping cart. And there is a massive spoiler on the board as well. I kind of just put on the spoiler just for the memes. It requires a very specific kind of person to like the look of the spoiler. I'm not sure where they're going with this. It's probably for teenagers that like a massive wing on their 2007 Honda Fit with a black bumper because they crashed into a tree and didn't have money for a paint job. Anyways, there's a massive wing. And on the wing, you can add 2 more brake lights. And these lights, they can sense if you are braking and they turn brighter, and yeah, all that. There's more brake lights. And the pull handle is a little bit tricky because in 4-wheel drive mode, the front ESC covers up where the pull handle should be, and there's no way to mount it in the front, so I have to mount it in the back. But in the back, there's already a wing. But I figured out a way to put both the handle and the wing at the back and tow it around. It works okay. So many things going on with this board. In terms of portability, in 2-wheel drive mode, it's okay. It's like any other longboard. You can tow around by holding the front trucks. It's not that big of an issue. But once you put on the rear spoiler, the tow hook, the pull handle, the side wings, the 4-wheel drive kit, this thing becomes a massive beast. Alright, it is so cumbersome to carry around. I'm so happy there's a tank mode because I don't want to pick that thing up. It's way too heavy for regular use. So yeah, if you use it in a 4-wheel drive configuration, it's a start to destination board. Okay, you're not getting on any public transportation. This is the first board that doesn't fit in my 2009 Subaru Forester. Yeah, I can put any other board in there, in the trunk, like horizontally. But this board, I have to put one of the seats down and put it in vertically. In terms of appearance, the naked board itself, which looks pretty much exactly as the Backfire Hammer, I think it looks pretty good. I like it simple. I don't want too many flashy things. But with the Hammer Sledge, with all the accessories, after I put it on there, there's the ESC on top, there's the massive wing, this thing becomes huge. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of it being huge, so I just stripped it down into the two-wheel drive configuration anyways, because I prefer it that way, and I think that's probably what I'm gonna be keeping it at, because I personally don't have a need for four-wheel drive. Here in the city, I rather have it a little bit more nimble and not as cumbersome to carry around, because I have to put it in the elevator, put it in the trunk of a car. So yeah, this board is such a roller coaster. This thing is such a roller coaster, because when I first got it, I was really excited for it. And once I put on everything, including the four-wheel drive kit and all that, I was kind of taken aback of how much this board is. But let's talk about some things that I didn't really like. So it's mostly just comes down to the trucks and how flexible the deck is. With these two configurations, the trucks feel quite loose and the deck is flexible. I don't feel comfortable going fast on this board. It's been on the verge of wobbles quite a lot, so you gotta be careful while riding it. Actually, that's probably the only thing I don't like about it. And I quite enjoyed this DIY-ish production board experience because there's so many things to customize and just fit to my liking, which kind of ended up with mud guards, two-wheel drive, the massive wing, because I forgot to take off the massive wing. But yeah, it's a pretty nice board. Good job, Backfire. You really outdid yourselves.
Thank you, Alex. Okay, let me give you my thoughts about the Hammer Sledge. Backfire had been working on this for a while. I first received a prototype at around the end of January, but back then I couldn't ride it yet because my ankle was still having issues. I mean, my ankle is still having issues now, but Max, he rode the board. So Max's feedback about the board is pretty similar to, like in terms of the trucks and the deck. It's pretty similar to Alex's, and also pretty similar to how I felt about the Hammer, which was the previous generation. None of us really liked the trucks. I wish that were something that they had fixed, but it sounds like they didn't. Who knows, maybe the next generation Hammer, who knows what they'll call it, the Jackhammer or Hammer Jack. Speaking of the name, Sledgehammer was my suggestion to Backfire, and then somehow Sledgehammer became Hammer Sledge. I don't know what happened there, but whatever. The deck, for such a powerful board, it seems like a flexi deck is not really the best choice. The deck is flexi and the trucks are very like squirrely, and it's using pneumatic tires. It's just like there's like rebound coming from all over the place. I'm not sure if I'm articulating that correctly, but from my experience on the Hammer, it just feels like carving just felt kind of weird on it. On the Hammer Sledge, they do have these two wings that you can attach. It's a weird solution. First of all, they make the board really, really wide. I think I've said this in other reviews before. I don't really like boards that are really wide. For me, a little bit narrow is okay, but I don't know. That might just be a personal preference thing. The fact that those wings don't have grip tape on them, yeah, that kind of sounds like, that feels like an oversight. The wings are supposedly there to stiffen up the deck so that you can ride at a higher speed, right? But then they don't have grip tape. It doesn't quite make sense. These types of boards nowadays, they're all really powerful. These 2-in-1 all-terrain boards. As for whether this board is more or less powerful than some other board, I don't think that should be the deciding factor of whether or not you get this board. Because like I said, boards in this category, they're all really powerful now. So there's no doubt in my mind that two-wheel drive is already really powerful and four-wheel drive is probably insane. If you're a Backfire fan and you want four-wheel drive, I guess this is the board for you. Me personally, I'm very sure that I would prefer the two-wheel drive version. Okay, first of all, the four-wheel drive, the fact that they have this ESC box on top of the front truck. My foot is not going to be on top of the front truck, but like it's close. I feel like that box is a little bit in the way. So the overall appearance of the board is really, really I don't even know how to describe it. Okay, I can look at it in a couple of different ways. One way is kind of like what Alex said. It feels very DIY. I think what he means by that, and at least what I mean by that is, okay, we have the Hammer and now we want to make it four-wheel drive. but we don't want to redesign the whole thing, right? We don't want to make a new mold for the enclosure. We want to keep the same enclosure, so we're just going to add this layer. There's no room for a second ESC, so we're going to put the second ESC on top of the front truck. It's like they're searching for solutions in a way where they have to redesign as little as possible, you know? So that's one way to look at it. The other way to look at it is that it's kind of got this cyberpunk type of look. So I don't know if you guys played Cyberpunk 2077. The cars, there are some of the cars in there, they look pretty cool. Like they look like they've been heavily modified, and that's kind of how I feel about the Hammer Sledge. The way it looks, it just looks like if you put on all the accessories, it just looks really, really modified. It's either very DIY-ish or very cyberpunk-ish. I guess it's both. Oh yeah, the remote is pretty cool. The display, it looked better than I expected. Like the default screen, there's a speedometer there where you speed up and then the graphic shows that you're speeding up. Yeah, it looks like a speedometer. Anyway, it looks pretty cool. The other screens don't look so great to me, but the default screen, the home screen, looks very nice. Like Alex said, I didn't like the placement of the reverse switch, but I don't know. Backfire has always put it in that position, and I have never liked it in that position. But otherwise, yeah, the build quality of the remote looks pretty nice. So in summary, it's a really powerful and really funny looking board from Backfire. Backfire, great customer service. How do you guys feel about the Backfire Hammer Sledge? Should it be called the Sledgehammer? Or I don't know, whatever. Let me know what you think in the comments down below.